I put out a tweet today, and I might have shot my load a bit quickly because our hairless leader has talked about illegal activity. So this is the raw clip, and then we'll play the news story afterwards. Let's just listen to the raw clip as to when it comes to the Prime Minister talking about illegal activity this weekend.
It's a national day of action that's happening on Thursday. There are some calls on social media at the moment for Māori to actually strike, not go to work that day as part of this national day of action. Is that
so to strike, not go to work today. Now, to me, Chewy, that's not actually a strike. Because a strike involves, a group of people organizing and saying this is the reason for it. And, that's what a strike is. To me, that's people bunking off work to go and protest. That's how I understand it. They've used the word strike maybe unwisely. Maybe it's a bit of a poor messaging. But they've used the word strike. And this is the response from our hairless leader.
Work that day as part of this national day of action. Is that appropriate?
No, that would be illegal.
Yeah, what do you make of the fact that the Māori Party is encouraging people to take the day off work?
Oh, I think that's wrong. I think
that's different. Take the day off work. That was Mikey.
It's entirely wrong. I think you feel free to protest. That's what we have weekends for. But I just say,
and just remember, you're only allowed to protest on weekends under these guys.
Te Pāti Māori, they're completely free to protest as they will, and as long as it's legal and it's peaceable and it's lawful, that's fine. But I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on making sure I deliver a budget for New Zealanders, whether they're Māori or non-Māori.
Do you think employers have a right to punish any employee who strikes?
Well, it's pretty clear what the rules are around strike action, and I would suggest to you that's not one of them.
What would you make about the image?
I just think I think it's stupid because it's not. They're not striking, because striking involves unions, and striking is from one place, like one group, like the junior doctors are striking. It's all of the junior. It's not a strike. It's people bunking off work to go on a protest. And my question is, since when has playing hooky from work, since when has having a sick day when you're not really sick, bunking off work ever been illegal? And my conversation today was, what's the crime? Like when something's illegal, that means it's a criminal act, right? What crime would you be charged for bunking off work to go on a protest? I can't quite figure it out. And it might be that they're getting caught up in the word strike, but we all know that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about bunking off work. But even if it was a strike and you hadn't organized a strike and someone in a workplace stood up and said, I'm on strike today, and they walked out, what's the crime? If it's illegal, what's the crime? What are they going to be charged with? What would be the charge for that crime?
Yeah, this is one of the things where Luxon is just being a complete goober over. Yes, there are laws around striking in New Zealand, which is a whole interesting thing that I found out this afternoon when I saw that clip and I went, the fucking what? So yeah, proper legitimate employment strike action. They need notice. They need demands. It needs to be around health and safety. It needs to be around contract negotiations. That's essentially the only way that you can strike. You also can't do a sympathy strike, which I found interesting. And this is all stuff that's happened in the past and a part of the attacks on unions and stuff like that. When you look at the history of New Zealand and you look at the Wharfies strike and that sort of thing, that's kind of where it's come from. So yeah, our goober leader is kind of technically stupidly correct.
Well, but even with that,
strike. If it was a strike.
But if it was a strike, right? If it was, and a whole bunch of people said, we're on strike, and they walked out of the office, what's the crime? What charges could they face in court? Now, it may be a breach of employment rules or laws or whatever, but to call something illegal means a crime has been committed.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you charge? Let's say every Māori teacher, let's say every teacher at a secondary school in Dunedin walked off on Friday. Not saying that the school would therefore charge them, but if they wanted to, who would you make the call to? The police would come and arrest them. What's the crime? And what would they be charged with? Like, everyone gets charged with a breach of whatever the crime is. What would it be? I just think it's fucking nonsense. It seems to me someone who doesn't actually understand employment law, someone who's missing the whole mark and is so distant from reality, they think that, CEO, you do something that the CEO doesn't like, that's illegal. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah. You keep on saying a phrase that is quite triggering for me, Pat. What is the charge? eating a delicious Chinese meal. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're saying that it's illegal, exactly. Are the police going to wade in and go, do you have permission from your employer to be here? Get in the van. It's not going to happen. So it's an empty threat.
But even if,
The other
but even
part
if
of it is people can ask permission from their employer. I suggest you don't do that. I suggest have a mental health day, have a long lunch break, whatever you feel is within your wheelhouse to support this. I urge everyone to do it. You know, and the fact that he's standing there going, it's illegal, you can only protest on the weekend.
fuck, what's that all about?
As a retail worker, I can go, what's a fucking weekend, you twat?
That's a good one. Read that one out. I like that one.
Yeah. Did Luxon mean to say that it was a sin?
Thank you, Daniel. Very good.
We couldn't, but it's the classic thing of protest of all things. You know, it's got to be respectful. We can't have harsh language, and you definitely can't inconvenience anyone. It's got to be, you can protest, but you can't inconvenience anyone. And you certainly can't affect productivity. Yeah. Why won't you horrible people think of the GDP?
Workers. Why will your workers give your manager a headache? I just looked up illegal, at it in the dictionary, contrary to or forbidden by law, especially criminal law. Now, the one thing I'll add before we get off our secondary tangent, Chewy, is you said, what would the police charge you with? Because actually, the police or people commit crimes, make illegal acts every single day and don't get charges. But if you wanted to follow the letter of the law, there could be a charge. So in this instance, even let's be generous and say, okay, so let's say it was illegal to do this, because that's the word he's used, illegal, but no one's going to get charged because, you know, what's a workplace going to do? But following the technical law, that means if you wanted to, like the person speeding, if you wanted to, there would be something to face. If it's illegal, if it's forbidden by law, especially criminal law, what's the charge? It's just, it shows idiocy to me. I just think it's ridiculous. But let's go and have a look at the rest of the story. This is
comments.
Sorry. Yeah, go.
When I saw that comment, my first reaction was, well, that just makes me want to strike even harder. Yeah.
Yep. All right. This is the full story. We'll see some more of that clip again. Let's check out what they're saying about it.
Buckle up, Prime Minister. Buckle up. Te Pāti Māori has issued a warning to Christopher Luxon ahead of widespread protests planned for Budget Day on Thursday. But the coalition government had its own warning to those thinking of taking part in the movement. And it's not the only big issue they're facing. Senior political reporter Benedict Collins explains.
It's not long now till Budget Day.
There's just 2 days to go.
2 more sleeps to go.
But Te Pāti Māori is aiming to make it a nightmare.
Not give too much to this Pākehā government with their Pākehā budget for their Pākehā economy.
They're running a big campaign calling on their supporters to protest across the country.
We're asking for a Māori strike and our people should turn out.
No, that would be illegal.
Yeah, what do you make of the fact that
What's
the
the crime?
party is encouraging people to take the day off work?
I think that's wrong. I think that's entirely wrong. I think, you feel free to protest. That's what we have weekends for. But
A little later, the Prime Minister getting a first-hand warning.
What is your message to protesters who might show up here outside?
Buckle up. Buckle up, Prime Minister.
A strike is illegal unless it's in your employment contract. So if they want to go on
but it's the ACT MP Todd Stevenson.
This idea from this government to say you're allowed to protest on the weekend, little people. We'll give that our seal of approval. You're allowed to protest, but certainly not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, because that's when we need you to be good workers and providing widgets for your overlords. Right? You can't leave that. You can't stop making widgets for your overlords. So in the weekend, like maybe Sunday, because we'd like you to work Saturday as well. That's the approved time by this government to actually protest. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Look, I plan to go. Look, lots of places have sick days. Lots of places have mental health days. Lots of places have sympathetic bosses, although you'd have to play that by ear, I would imagine. If you're able to go, I encourage people to go. I think this is important.
Yeah.
And yes, like, apart from Luxon's ridiculous, it's illegal, you're all going to jail, you're all going to the naughty room. Look, for a lot of places, it would be a breach of your employment contract. And you need to weigh up whether getting written up is worth it to you. I would say on balance, yes. For me, it is. And so I'll be going. I know here in Dunedin, there's a rally. Most major centres are having a rally, and all the information is out there on Facebook and other social media things. I think you should. We've been saying this consistently for a long time now, is that these guys want to split Pākehā Māori apart. We need to stand together. And we need to stand for the vision of New Zealand that we have.
Yep.
And I think it's certainly for the people that watch this show, our idea of what this country should be varies enormously from our current government.
Yeah.
It wipes out decades of progress. And it wipes out decades of progress, some of which was done by National. So under the King government, there was still progress made. And that's the thing that's crazy. But, you know, National doesn't have a memory. Some protest National likes. Some illegal protest action National likes.
Yeah, there you go.
Your average person wouldn't get away with driving a tractor up the steps of Parliament. That's probably illegal.
Yeah. Yeah,
Reckless
and I
operation
know
of a motor vehicle.
I know it's a side note a little bit, but just remember, you know, the government at the moment, and this will probably come up more next week because this week will be focused on the budget by lots of people, is there are 60-ish legislation, 60 policies, 60 laws in New Zealand that reference the Treaty of Waitangi or the Treaty of Waitangi principles. This government's actually looking to get rid of the reference to the Treaty of Waitangi from many of those policies. I think they've identified about 22 of them. It's a massive story. They're not doing it right now, but it's coming up on the books for them to vote on. This government wants to, if you don't like the idea of thinking about white supremacist or European supremacist or whatever ideologies, then how do you explain away a government trying to delete references to the founding document, which is the partnership between the Crown and Māori? They want to get that out of legislation. What would be a better word for it than, I mean, you know, Western supremacy, corporate supremacy? What would be a better, I mean, I'm not actually saying this as a piss take. If you're uncomfortable, some people with calling these guys a right-wing, you know, white supremacist, fascist government, like some people do. See you tomorrow night, Bomber. You know, what would be comfortable to call a government that wants to get rid of all of these things that Māori have either fought for, or, to use Luxon's favourite word, are entitled to based on that contract they signed up to?